we're live.
Okay.
So.
We'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
See if you can see us on there.
Let's see.
I hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm going to continue talking in case. Looks like
We're live there.
Okay.
Okay.
We are
Look,
in Alabama.
Here we are.
Apparently we're live now. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're in Alabama, and we had some pretty rough weather over the weekend, last weekend. And to be honest, the weather has not been great this week. And the crazy thing about Alabama is I think you probably saw me in short sleeves last live, but I've got the sleeves on, and we had to at least bump the heat on just a little bit to take the chill off this morning. And normally we would have, all the doors and windows open. But
It's been one day we did, one day we had to turn the heat on, so it's been back and forth. Crazy.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
Winter in Alabama.
Yeah. Praise the Lord, we haven't had to turn the AC on yet, but...
I think we did one day.
oh, did we?
For a few minutes, it got really humid, so we just turned it on,
Wow.
bumped it down to
Yeah.
get the humidity out of the air.
Yeah,
So,
it helps my joints if the humidity is less. So probably a reason why we shouldn't live in Alabama. But anyway, we have a grandbaby
Here we
here
are.
now, so we're probably not going anywhere.
yep, we're not. Up until now, I would be willing to move anywhere. But for the first time in my life, I'm like, nope, not moving away. I might move closer to where he is, but
Well, we don't have a full hour today because today we need to jump on a Zoom with eBay.
yeah.
So hopefully we'll learn some stuff from this Zoom call that might be beneficial to y'all, and we'll let you know later. Obviously, I don't think everybody gets this email. Not really sure why
No.
we get it.
Well, we got it because we applied to be community leaders. And we did this like a year ago. Well, not a
Well,
year ago.
not a year ago.
Maybe last summer. And it took a few months before we got word back that we had been approved. So if you're anywhere around and near North Alabama, our group is called North Alabama Resellers, I think, community.
Yeah, we'll
We've not had our first meeting yet, so
No.
we're learning how to get the word out on that. And probably, or at least initially, our meetings are going to be virtual. So you don't necessarily have to be in North Alabama in order to be able to join us.
no. If you want to
that.
join us, and from there is where we can share things that we're learning. If we hear something that from this meeting that you don't get to go to the meeting yet, or we can tell you it's not worth it.
Right.
But eventually, we want to try to have an in-person meeting with people that are nearby, or who are interested in driving to a central location. But for now, we need to make sure that we're don't go long because we have that meeting. So that being said, for those of you who watched Hope's video yesterday.
Which it went up a little late, so you may not have seen it, but I did do a video of about the 15 things that we are aiming to tasks that we have taken on this week. I shared in the video that sales last weekend were
Terrible.
It wasn't a goose egg, but we were having some good sales. When everybody seemed to be complaining that they weren't having sales, we were having some really good days.
And that's what you get for bragging.
Well, we weren't bragging, were we? I don't know. Maybe we were enjoying it a little bit too much. We worked hard to get to this point, and so anyway, what we have learned though is that you can have a high of 15 sales one day, and you can have a 0 sales day the next. So we are learning to step back, and we really gauge our days. We obviously gauge our days by how many packages we take to the post office. but we're also trying to be bigger picture and let our 90-day sales total be a little bit more of a guide in measuring whether or not we're doing
That's
good.
a whole lot more realistic, because if you're just counting things by the day,
It's easy to freak out.
yeah, it's easy. Of course, we'd had like a terrible week and a half, and yesterday was my birthday. And so my phone was dinging. Now, I keep it because I'm a contractor. I don't turn my ringer on. That's just something I probably never turn my ringer back on, ever. But my phone was dinging nonstop yesterday, and it was not because of eBay.
No, we did have a decent day.
Yeah.
So we won't complain about that. And we had a decent night as well. So
Yeah, today's much better. So that's why I'm keeping my eye over here, making sure
make sure you don't miss any
I don't
offers.
miss any offers.
Yeah.
But
So
you listed a bunch of things.
yeah, I've made a video. I posted a video yesterday about 15 things that we're working on, tasks that we, just obviously continuously work on, but things that we're doing to kind of catch the attention of the algorithm to boost engagement and viewers and sales. And so one of the things that I mentioned yesterday is running sales. And I do not run the sales. And yesterday was a reminder to me that I don't need to be dealing with customers,
She doesn't mean it that way.
Well, I mean that I'm not a very good negotiator, at least not in this couple. Michael is the negotiator and he is the strategist. So he's the one who runs our sales. And I promised yesterday that you would talk about how you run sales, why you run them, what's your philosophy behind it and everything. So I'm going to let you run with it.
When we were overseas, we had to make a signal. I had to tell her to give me a specific look on something, that if she really wanted something, she just needs to give me the look and then let me negotiate.
And then I would act like I was completely uninterested and start kind of walking and
Like she was
meandering
leaving.
away, and so that would give him even more bargaining power. So
Yeah, and we were surprised at how many Americans don't bargain.
yeah.
Um,
They
so-
don't like it, but we also didn't understand what it meant to people of other cultures when you were a good bargainer or a good negotiator.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it carries a lot of weight.
In fact, one time I was negotiating for the rent of an apartment, and this person who had met with several people, specifically, some Americans and some others, and he had actually gotten to the point of a higher price than I was willing to pay for rent to rent the place, but he ended up renting it to us, and he told me this after the fact. He said, because you negotiated, I respect you more than the other people that I talk to, and therefore I trust you more
Wow.
with my property. So anyway, story for a different time.
Yeah.
But for today, what I wanted to kind of go over, and then if enough people are interested, hope we'll figure out how to do the screen share deal where we can go into more detail. But I want to talk about the fact that I do run sales constantly. And I didn't start that way. I didn't start sales initially. In fact, I didn't really completely understand
What a sale was
what it worked.
on eBay.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different terms for different things that you could think mean different things. But anyway, when I figured out how to run sales, and then I had someone mention that they don't. I think when I first did sales, I would do sales where they would run for like a whole month. And someone brought up that, hey, well, if you run it for a whole month, the problem is no one has any sense of urgency. And so more than likely, they're not going to jump on, whatever that item is, because they go, I got all month to think about this. And then if they think about all month, they might not come back and buy it. So anyway, I shifted, and we were told that, after Christmas time, whatever, there's going to be a slowdown. Everybody had bought all their Christmas stuff, and then they weren't gonna have any money, and so there was just gonna be the slowdown. So around Christmas time, I was like, okay, well, I need to be fairly aggressive. And I also was seeing that I had a lot of stuff that were bad buys on my part when I first started, stuff I should have never picked up, but I did, and that we
Because it was a good deal.
it was a good deal. I didn't want to leave it behind, and we were accumulating, and we don't want to turn it into a storage business. And so, remember, that's why the thrift store is selling their things, because they don't want to be a storage business either.
Right.
But anyway,
And the people donating didn't want to store it.
to give you kind of an idea of what I do for sales, now I started off very aggressive, and I had to use my little journal type notebook, and we ended up, I used to buy Moleskin only, but these are from Amazon. They're their Amazon basic version, and Hope can put a link in the
do that.
future of this. I get the one with the grid because it helps me do what I'm doing. She likes the ones with the lines because of, we're just different people. But anyway, so what I did was say, okay, some people, what they do is they'll do a 10% off sale. Okay. Some people will go, you know what, I'm gonna get crazy. I'm gonna do a 25% sale. But that's the only sale. They just put everything on sale for a month for like 25%. And that's really how we started. We picked a number and everything in the store went on sale. Now,
Immediately. Because you didn't know how you could filter.
I didn't know how all that, worked. And here's what happened. I started saying, well, you know what? This is a new item. This is a really good item. But because it's going to go on sale immediately, I'm going to bump up what I want to as my initial number.
So you can mark it up, so you can mark it down.
So it came down so it was where it needed to be. Don't do that. So I've been fixing that for, feels like years, but we haven't been in business for years. So forever. And that's part of the whole enlisting sales similar thing I'll talk about later. So this is what we do now. And by doing this is, I think, has changed and helped us a great deal. I still got a bunch to fix, but we're getting pretty close, and we're seeing the fruits of this, of doing this. So what you need to do is, and I can do a very specific video on how I find what I feel like is the good number. Be careful. Be careful how you do comps. We are not, and I'm talking about we, meaning you and I, are not going to spend the time we need to spend to pay attention to all the things that's being used for the comps. And you may be pricing a pair of Izod pants in the store. But what you don't see when you're looking at comps, because you're just real quickly looking at a number, is that it threw a pair of polos in there, it threw a pair of Dockers in there, it threw a pair of Hagars in there, but you didn't scroll through all that because you said, okay, I'm pricing Izod, Izod.
And the average price is, and you just choose that.
Yeah, and that messes up your sell-through rate, which that's a whole nother discussion about what really is sell-through rate. But it also messes up what you should price these things at. So without going into great detail about how I find what I feel like this is a good number, I feel comfortable. These sell for $24.95. Okay. I'm not saying guys I pants so for that. Just whatever it is that you're looking at. Then I say that's what I'm going to price it at. But I want to be a little bit better than my competition. So if everybody, was on average is at $24.95, then my sale kicks in the beginning. So what I do is, being aggressive about this is how I started off. I did every 2 weeks in intervals. So I would say I'm going to do a 5% sale. And what that is everything from 0 days to 14 days.
How long it's been listed.
If it's been on our site for 14 days, then you're getting 5% off. And then what you do is you just bump it up 5% and add 14 more days, and bump it up 5% and add 4. So we were, when we first started doing this around Christmas time, I got all the way up to like 65%.
Wow.
And the reason why is because we had a bunch of stuff, that we never should have bought, that's been in our store forever,
Or we overpriced it,
or we overpriced it,
or was a bad listing.
or whatever. And so I started saying, okay, I don't want things to be 65% off. So then I would circle back around and I would just get a list of the things that are at 65%. And I would pick the things that are like, oh my gosh, I definitely don't want to sell that for that amount. And I would start ending them. Okay. So
you're doing this simultaneously.
I'm doing
You're
them
running the sale.
I got to run the sale first because
Okay.
that gives me my number. Because in the past, the way I did in listing sell similar was that I was looking for stuff that was about to renew. And I knew, hey, I'm going to have to pay a renewal fee. So let me go ahead and end it before it renews. Let me fix it. And then I'll do a sell similar then. And that way I'm only paying that fee once. That was when our store was much smaller. We paid a smaller amount. We had less free listings. And so I was trying to prevent it from double charging me. So just so you understand, if something rolls over and eBay automatically relists it, they're going to charge you for that, or it counts as one of your frees.
But it's not improved in any way.
But it's not improved in any way. And then I hit end listing to fix it and then sell similar. Well, it charged me again. Now, we're at a level with our store where I think our number is like 50,000 or something like that. So we're in no
I'm not even
danger.
sure.
We're in no danger of getting anywhere near how many are part of our store level.
And hopefully we will never have to bump that up. So.
Yeah. But we can talk about store levels because people get confused about when should I get a store, when should I not get a store, or when should I bump up to the next level. And it's some math that we can show you how that works. So going back to the sale part, this is how I shifted. I was looking at things that have been on the store the longest, and by doing
The
that,
deepest discount.
that's the ones that end up at the deepest discounts. Well, because it put me in panic mode that, oh my gosh, I'm going to sell those at 65% off, meant I focused on those first. Other things, I was like, I can't fix all my listings. We're at what, 20? Well, you can't see right there.
About 2,200
We're
or
about
so.
2,200 listings, active listings now. So that doesn't count the ones we've already sold. But that's just too many to fix at one time. Also, we were catching rumors about how they were going to change the settings for us, and that we were going to have to declare whether or not this item was fair, good, or excellent. I'm like, I can't.
Total game changer.
Yeah, I can't fix them all at one time. eBay just set them all at good. Well, that could be dangerous. And we don't need to go in and change them all to excellent because guess what? They were not excellent. And I was finding this out the hard way. So most people they're not going to spend the time to go through and do these in-listing sell similars. Now, the other motivation for us to do the in-listing sell similars that we do is that we were listing 12 new a day. We had bumped our way up to 12. And we had decided, you know what? 12 is a little much right now. We're not selling anywhere close to 12 a day. So we need to back off. But if you back off, then what happens is it's a negative for eBay. But you can offset the fact that you backed off from 12 to 10 by doing in-listing sell similars daily. So I started off just kind of covering the fact that we backed it off from 12 to 10. And then I just kept bumping up because I kept going, oh my word, that's a terrible listing. Oh my word, that's a terrible listing. Oh, what were we thinking? So
We weren't.
we weren't, So I have shifted because we had a decent January and February, and I was like, you know what? I think we can back off. We don't have to do it every 2 weeks. So let's bump it to every 3 weeks. So it's 5% off for every 3 weeks it's been on the site. The other reason why I did that was because I call it my belly fat. I saw this group that was working its way through my sale. And I was like, ooh, this is about to be a big number. And I can't fix all those as fast as they're coming. So let me slow down how it's coming.
Slow that roll.
Let me slow that roll. So here's some things that I started finding. Now remember, end listing sell similar is different than just sell similar. So everybody's telling you that when you're starting to do a new listing, that you want to find a similar listing to yours. You want to click on that sell similar, and then you just want to replicate what they're already doing. Okay, guess what? If they have a bad listing, now you got a bad listing.
Right.
And I am fixing a ton of that because that's how we started. Now, granted, we didn't know what we were doing, so something was better than nothing.
It helped, yeah. It helped give us some of the item-specific information. But there are a lot of things that I did not understand in the beginning, like the difference between material and fabric and how you answer those. I thought material was fabric, So a lot of that I didn't understand in the beginning. So those sell similars did help us get started.
Yeah, and I'm saying that if you are just starting out, make sure you find somebody that's good that's doing those, because then you're just copying their bad listing, and both of you are not going to sell anything because someone else who had a better listing than you. So that in itself has been a process, and to this day we are still fixing a lot that
Still
we did that way.
tweaking how we price and how we answer this item specifics, and definitely tweaking how we title.
And
Constantly.
yeah,
changing.
constantly. And every time I think, you know what, after I get through this round of enlisting sell similars, I probably won't have to do this again. And then I'm like, oh,
Oh, you
gosh.
learned something else.
Oh, I learned something new. So that's part of the 1% better. So things that I find when I do enlisting sell similar, once again, I try to end them at least 12 hours or so before I relist them. Not relist them, sell similar. There's a difference. Because when you enlist and sell similar, it's going to wipe, just so you know, warning, it's going to wipe all your views and it's going to wipe all your watchers. But you know what? Hey, if it hasn't sold for 6 months, maybe it doesn't matter.
Right.
And maybe it's time to do something. So that's that's what we do. But things I find is that I can tell because of how our numbering system works in our SKU. And then every time I do something with a listing, if I revise it or if I end it, I put a date in our SKU so I can kind of see the history. And some of them I'm looking at them going, oh, we listed this a long time ago and we've done nothing. And that's why nobody's looking at it. Nobody's watching it. And we're just storing it. So I find stuff like damage.
Right.
Now remember, I'm the guilty one in the front end. I'm thinking, man, somebody would want this. And somebody used to constantly say, why did you get the shirt with a hole in it? Or why did... Now, we kind of fell into the trap with jeans, and we would think that was cool. But now with the new categories, we're like, no, that's for somebody else.
Right. And we also, I think that the new item specifics and aiming for excellent has helped us narrow our niche. Like, we are better understanding who we are, who we're selling to. And we're not selling a lot of jeans. And
we can't really find them. Somebody else is beating us out.
Yeah, definitely. In Central Alabama, somebody else is buying all the jeans, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because we have a different niche, and we all don't need to be selling the same thing, clearly. So
we have a different buying strategy. I mean, the last time we were sourcing, I watched a guy. He didn't care what the price was on the Levi's. He bought every single pair of Levi's.
Or the condition.
He bought every pair of Levi's. He didn't buy anything else. But we were really like, oh, we'll wait till next week and they'll be cheaper. Guess what? They're gone. But anyway, so I find a lot of damage that we may have taken a picture of it. When we first started off, Hope would like poke her finger at something.
I have a chopstick now.
No. Oh, yeah. Now you have a chopstick.
Yeah.
Which is easier for me because I'm like, okay, I'm looking for chopsticks. But when she did the finger, I didn't know if she was just like pointing out a feature or if there was damage. And then we didn't say anything about what it was down below.
Right.
And we got burned on not maybe once or twice.
Right.
Because someone said, hey, you didn't really declared this spot or whatever.
It's all debatable, but
yeah, and it's
we're also learning that.
Let's not get our blood pressure up.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that it's always best if you declare everything, point it out.
Everything.
We do this for waist and inseam measurements for pants. We put it in the title. We highlight it in the photos because we show the measurements, and we put it in the item condition, and we put it in the item description. So we put it in there 4 times. So if somebody ever gets a pair of pants from us and says they're not the right size.
Yeah. But, and that can be a whole separate video because we got on with eBay, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get 4 or 5 different answers on how to denote that. So we're just trying our best to cover ourselves in any way we can. But like I said, those things that I'm having to go back and when you have 25 items, you don't have to pull those things out and look at everything, whatever. So our photos, photos are key, and those have been helpful. But I go through and I'm like, okay, that one had a spot. And if it had a hole, but back then when we first got the jeans,
if they were jeans,
that was supposed to be cool. Now we're like, you know what? I know it's clearly obvious that it's distressed.
It's intentionally distressed.
But I'm going to have to say in my description that it's intentionally distressed. So, and like I said, that became a much bigger deal now that we have to declare whether it's fair, good, or excellent. And be very careful about saying it's excellent.
Because the definition that eBay uses is really, really vague.
Yeah.
So there's no hard and fast way to classify it. So you just
and in my opinion, they said this is supposed to reduce returns, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
Another big one is that I'm finding a lot of stuff that's priced too high. Mm-hmm. Now, part of that has to do because I fell into the trap of, hey, we're going to do the same percentage off everything in the store, blah, blah, blah. And then I artificially inflated the price so that when it went on discount,
it was where you wanted it to be.
Where it wanted to be. Like I said, don't do that. I did it for too long before I was like, this is not a good idea. But I've also found some stuff that was priced too low. Now, case in point, today, here's part of what happens in the in-sell similar, is that because it has worked its way through the back end, it's getting up there to now once it gets about 45%, that's as far as it gets anymore. But I'm looking at that going, why in the world has that not sold? And that thing is, someone today could get it for $12. And it should have gotten me $25, $30 all day long. So I ended.
Was it the wrong season?
Partly because we're not at the point where we can afford to, I think she mentioned it in the other video, we can't buy for a different season and just store that stuff for 6 months and then bring it out. So we're not at that point yet. But part of it is that part was the size of our store. We probably weren't getting very much traction. So whenever that thing went out, no one saw it, and it's been lost in the eBay world forever. So guess what? I ended it. I revised it. I relisted it for $24.95, and it sold. They could have had it 2 weeks ago for $13.
Uh-huh.
But they didn't see it 2 weeks ago. and they saw it this time. And where we would have said, oh, because everybody normally would say, just keep discounting it until it's gone. Well, if you're wealthy, you can do that. But if you're in a situation like we are, we didn't really have that choice. And it was a good item.
Right.
Now, the other flip side of that is I had some stuff that was priced too high. And I thought, you know what? This needs to come down. And we've done that, and then we've sold those as well.
Yeah.
So
Definitely had some low dollar sales.
but on those
But they were things
where
that
they
needed
could
to
have got
go.
them for say $12, they actually paid 15, so it was better than selling it for 12, but it was still too high. So both problems. The other thing that I've been fixing, because we talked about this before, we ran into a situation for some reason, and I think it has to do with doing a sell similar from somebody else's listing, is that we had a whole pocket full of no returns.
Right. And by that you mean listings that said that we do not accept returns.
Which meant no one bought them because
Yeah.
they say no
'Cause if-
returns.
If you're looking at buying a pair of pants and this buyer has the same pair of pants and they accept returns and you're taking a chance on whether or not they're going to fit, then you're going to go with someone who's going to accept the returns.
Now, I do have at some point later, we could talk about, there's a time when you might want to say it's no returns, because if it's like a Halloween costume.
Yeah, we've
and-
heard some
Yeah, we've
nightmares.
heard stories of people buying a Halloween costume and returning it after Halloween. But anyway, so there's that. Our shipping policy. We transitioned slowly. We thought we were completely switched all over to one day to same day.
Right. So what we did learn is that if you have listings that are already out there, but you don't have a store policy set, then you can change policies on an individual listing. But what we thought was, we're going to change our store policy so that instead of one day handling, we're doing same day.
Because that's what we were doing anyway.
Right. So, but we really hesitated to make that hard and fast because we weren't sure we would be able to maintain that.
And I wouldn't recommend you do it straight off the bat.
Right. But it just has become our routine. We go to the post office Monday through Saturday. Sometimes we'll occasionally not go on Saturday because we don't have to take those orders on Saturday. They're not due until Monday.
But if we got 3 or
But-
4 sales, we'll take them.
Right. And also, we've gotten a lot of really good customer reviews from people who purchased, say, on a Friday or even a Saturday morning, but their item got shipped out that day and they weren't even expecting it to ship out until Monday. They're like, wow, that was fast. So,
Yeah, that's part of our number one highest praise is fast shipping.
fast shipping.
Also, title issues. So I'm still digging into proper titles, and this is something we'll go into more detail later. But we have been changing how we do titles. We've changed. We've listened to certain people say one thing and then turn around and someone else says something different. And so this is kind of a moving target for us. But that's part of the thing that I'm fixing is when it's blatantly obvious that the title is just like we've mistakenly, because if you don't pay attention when you're doing an initial listing and you do a sell similar from somebody else, if you're not paying attention, the details that you leave in the title are their details
Exactly.
and not yours. So this is why you have to not get in a hurry and slowly work through all the way down, because if you get distracted somewhere along the way, you're going to regret it. So title issues, we talked briefly, Hope did yesterday, about photo quality. We are still working on that. We still need, I feel like, one additional overhead light.
We
of some
definitely need to
sort.
tweak our lights. The current boxes that we have, the stands aren't holding up very well.
Don't get
there's
the
a reason
cheapest
why.
ones.
There's a reason why we have extra padding to hold things at the right angle.
I mean, if you can only afford the cheapest ones, then which is what we did.
Right.
But there's a quality difference.
Yeah, currently the budget does not allow for us to improve our lighting, but it is on the list. So
So we need to do at least one something overhead.
I think we need something from below too, because when I photograph pants, they get
probably
really
so.
dark at the bottom, and I have to, when I photograph the bottom half of a pair of pants, I do have to bump up the exposure on that.
Which lighting is everything, and when we have a good day and a bad day outside, it affects our photos. But our background is gray. I don't know what it looks like to y'all right now,
No.
but we have pictures where it looks beige,
Yes.
and everything about the photo looks yellow, and it doesn't have anything to do with what Hope was doing then. It has everything to do with lighting.
The lighting outside of the room.
So there's that. We talked about item specifics and how I am finding our philosophy on how to warn somebody about this pair of pants is tagged this way, but this is what it actually, and where we really started to say, oh, well, let's pay really good attention is when pants have been altered. And when you're looking, and some of these pants have been altered very well.
Right.
But
a lot.
but a lot. And so that affects a lot of things. And, we have to now hold them up to ourselves and go, is this really a whatever size? So
Right.
that's a whole other deal with, just specifics. But the other thing is don't leave any of the blanks blank.
Any of the items,
Any of the
specifics
fields.
blank?
Any of the put
Fields.
something
Okay.
in
Uh-huh.
there. We often use NA, but I am thinking about possibility of putting something else in there instead of NA, because maybe it's just unknown or something different. But don't leave anything, but put something in there. Just say, hey, how you doing? I don't care. Put an X on there, because the algorithm will look and see, this listing has a lot more things filled out than this one. And so I'm filling in every blank with just whatever I can put in there, and we can talk about some of those tips and tricks later. Briefly, we already touched on how we handle pant sizes, and we can go into more detail about how we state this is what it's tagged,
Tag states this by this.
but it measures this, and some of that has to do with shrinkage, some of that has to do with alternating. Newer issue has to do with all the spandex in pants. Now they're stretching. It used to be the opposite impact.
The pants would shrink.
So anyway, and then what happens occasionally is when I'm doing these, I find duplicate listings. I'm like, ooh, what is that? Now, praise the Lord, I found them. I'm still finding them, but when I find them, I'm ending both of them, and I'm figuring out, why do we have two of the same? And all kinds of things could come into play, but you want to make sure that you don't have two listings that are having two different people look at them, because we do have some pairs of pants that we got the identical.
Two identical pairs.
And so
but
those
they have
are
different numbers.
Those are two separate listings, but these ones we just did the other day, it was the same thing, and but we had two listings. And what if two people bought them at the same time?
Yeah.
Then you'll have a problem. So, the questions you want to ask yourself is, why hasn't this sold yet? There's probably some kind of reason. Part of me going through this process is that I'm learning. And I'm like, you know what? The number of times that this item has not sold means I do not need to pick it up in the future. It's just not, it's not worth our time and effort.
Bad pick.
Or you can say when you're doing it, oh, this is why it didn't sell. And those are the kind of moments you want to have, because when they sell 2 weeks later, you're like, see? So unless you do this over and over and over and over, so I do currently 10 a day, and we do new listings 10 a day. So, in eBay it's size, it's
10,
like,
you're saying you do 10 in listings and sell similars, and you rework the listing.
yeah. And so I can get in more specifics, but I end them on one day and relist them on another. So there's a cycle of it's in the bank, it's back out. It's in the bank, it's back out. You may not want to do, depending on the size of your store, you may not want to do that many.
Or how much time you have.
Or how much time you have. You want to make sure that you're not making eBay think that you're selling all these somewhere else because you ended it. But they can see that we every day end 10 and every day we relist 10. And so our number, total number, keeps going up, plus our new stuff. So those are kind of the things that that come into play. Where I'm going next with this is that now that I have, not yet, I'm close. Maybe by the end of this month, I kind of feel like I'm out of the 911s, but every time I say that, there's something new I need to fix. But I want to try to change it up to where I'm enlisting and self-assembling based on the season. Because like I said before, we buy shorts when we can buy shorts. We buy pants when we can buy pants. Well, we don't have the luxury of just putting them away for 6 months.
Right.
So, and when you do that, then you end up with shorts that you forgot.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
jackets that you forget.
and case in point, this week when we had a bad, last week was just low. We didn't really have the funds and we needed to not go sourcing, which made us work from our death pile, if that's what you call it, or your profit pile,
That's what
or
you said, profit
he
pile.
calls it inventory.
I just call it inventory.
I don't call it inventory until it's actually listed.
Then it's a death pile for her.
Yeah. So
She wants it to
anyway,
die.
we have been working through that built up inventory that has not been listed yet. And as we worked through it, we were like, dang, that's a really good blazer. Why haven't we listed that yet?
And guess
Dang,
what?
it's really good.
She sold them already.
Some of the ones that we just listed this week have already sold, but they were at the bottom of the pile. And we just kept moving the pile whenever we needed to get to what was underneath it. So the upside to having a bad week last week is that it made us do a lot of spring cleaning and addressing issues in our store. And we need to go sourcing next week. We've got to get caught up on sourcing, but we also need to keep working on all these things that we're working on right now and have been sharing about.
Yeah,
So-
it's still, even with what we would refer to as spring cleaning, there's some other parts that we want to do that we haven't done yet. Part of that is while we're working on the inventory, and we're seeing, because we tried different things early on, we tried some whatnot stuff and different things, and that, unless you're super organized, and we weren't at the beginning, we were still working some stuff out. We need to make sure everything we got is listed, and that if we see things that are, we should be able to tell from our spreadsheet that these
We've been holding something for a long time. Why is it not?
why is it not? Or we can say we've listed all these. We don't ever sell these, but we sell these as fast as we get them.
Right.
So that's another part of spring cleaning where we just kind of, every retail store does inventory. So we probably need to do inventory as well, the sooner than later, because the number keeps growing.
Yep.
And it's
Okay.
also part of us, we're talking about changing our storage strategy. So we had the most affordable way. That's what we've been doing for quite a while. Hopefully, sales will pick up and we can start migrating to a different system.
An age in place system.
Yeah, because those things are getting heavy. So.
Well, the upside to what we've been doing is, because we're storing the items in bigger bins, is that I handle them on a daily basis.
It's a
and
workout.
It is a workout, and I'm like, why do I need weights? I'm picking up like 30-pound bins, or 40 pounds. Some of them are pretty hefty, but I'm picking those up and moving them around on a daily basis. So it's not all bad, but our inventory system, how we have them stored, is a bit of a challenge sometimes if we make a mistake and we misnumber something,
Or,
which does happen.
yeah, you said it was in the wrong bin or something like that. So anyway, we, despite talking fast, we've run out of time. We got to get ready for this Zoom meeting. Any of the things that we mentioned in the video that you would like for us to explain better, or to do a screen share and show you how, because you're not going to be able to really follow
No.
some of the things that I do in my pad. And my pad is not just the sales stuff. I track what we do every day, and
Offers and
every
counters and
well,
stuff.
maybe not
Some-
that.
okay.
I should do that, as complicated as that is.
Because there's no way to really track it on the app.
If you get to the point where you are getting a lot of offers, it can get confusing, and you need to be careful about that. And that's a whole different discussion about don't burn yourself in the offer department. But where we're hoping to go, we're probably hoping to take our spreadsheet to the next level, where a lot of this stuff will move from my notebook, my journal, to an actual spreadsheet to help us, because we've reached a point now, if you haven't started tracking your stuff, you better start, because later you're like, oh, why didn't I track this? Why didn't I track that? And then it's going to be not too late. It's never too late.
No, it's
But
never
it's just
too
gonna be
late to
harder.
start, but it just gets more complicated the further along you get. And like you said, we haven't hit the 1 year mark, so we are very, very close to that. And I'm amazed at how much we have learned in a year. And one of the things I love about eBay is that, well, love and hate, I
Yeah,
guess,
I was going to say.
is that
It's a love-hate.
it's constantly changing. And so there's constantly things that you can do to improve, and it keeps your brain active, and you're actively looking for information all the time. But it really does help to have support around you, and channels like some of the ones that we watch are there are a lot of 6-figure eBay store people, that guarantee if you follow their formula. Well, we're not guaranteeing anything, but we will guarantee that we will share what we're learning along the way. And I'm hoping that we have the opportunity to learn from you guys. And,
Yeah,
any
please,
questions that you have, or discussions that you would like to make or have together in the future, we are open to entertaining any and all questions, and listening to any advice that you have too.
Yeah, somebody mentioned in the last video about setting your store up so that it
Gives buyer auto feedback.
feedback.
Yeah.
And it's something that we really need to look into, because as the bigger you get, the more likely you are to be overwhelmed and not be able to get to that stuff. And that's a whole different discussion about how if you're trying to grow your store, like, you need their feedback and they need your feedback. And so
Right.
some people just, instead of buying on Amazon, buy on eBay just to get the auto feedback, so their feedback number grows. So anyway,
Okay.
great suggestion that we're going to check out, so that we at least do something instead of forgetting and having to spend a lot of time fixing that. So
Right. Yeah.
anyway, we're headed to the Zoom meeting. We'll let you know what we find out. I
Yeah.
hope y'all have a better weekend than we had last weekend with weather, for sure. And that
And with sales.
and with sales. Sales would be great for all of us. So anyway, God bless. Y'all have a great weekend.